he'll show you the site here in just a minute, and you can always request reset password. You don't have to ask me to reset it. You can just go to reset password and it'll send you an email from Boardworks and help you get set up. Then after we get done with this, we'll take a little bit of a break, and then we'll come back and hit some depth of knowledge and some essential standards, and then hopefully it'll be lunchtime. All right, so I'm just going to turn it over
Give me,
to you.
Yep,
Just a second.
2 minutes and we'll get rocking. We log in here. All right. How's everybody doing? Good. Sorry for the little bit of delay, but the great news is this doesn't take that long. Usually it's about 30 minutes, so we're going to be right on time. Hi, my name's Chase. I work all over Oklahoma. I live in far north Dallas. Y'all familiar with Dallas at all?
McKinney?
Not far from McKinney. I live in Anna. You know Anna?
Anna?
Yeah, which is just north of McKinney.
Oh, right.
Probably about 45 minutes from Durant. I was a football coach in Dallas for a long time, was a high school principal, and a place called Coppell, which is kind of by DFW Airport. And then, I feel like I'm in Oklahoma all the time. I have family, so I have a lot of family here, on the Tulsa side. They go to Kiefer, a little small town, next to Sapulpa. And of course for Boardworks, I've been in Oklahoma a ton, just because I cover Oklahoma and Texas. So, what I'm going to do today in this kind of 30-ish minutes is I'm not going to sit here and dive into all the content that's in Boardworks. It gets updated constantly. There's about to be some new presentations. Y'all can explore that on your own. What I want to do is I want to make sure you understand what it's for, how to navigate it, what the different features are. We had some new features that we just updated it with. That way, when you 2 weeks from now, a month from now, 2 months from now, when you're trying to pull some stuff, you know what to expect and can easily access it. Sound good? Perfect. So let's dive in. First things first, like I said, my name is Chase Vaughn. You're going to get this slide deck. So if you have any questions, you guys can contact us. Like I told you a little bit about me, I'm a former educator. I've been with Boardworks for 4 years now. Before that was a teacher and a coach and then a principal. That's my contact info. Happy to help with whatever is needed, especially as you get to the school year. I know things get crazy. That's why, again, you don't have to write anything down. And it's totally fine if you're in this room and you're not signed in or you don't have your info. You don't need Boardworks right now for this. This is more just an overview so you understand it. And then if you don't have your account, you can get it from your admin and they can get it to you. Make sure you're good to go. The guy to my right, who looks like he's 10, he's not 10, I promise. I think he's in his 40s. His name's Andy Flo. He leads our tech support team. So they're all in here in the United States. I mean, we're all across the country, but there's a team that supports. So if there's any help, a lot of times it's logging in, right? But if you notice, hey, I wish there's something here I don't understand or whatever, you can email support or call. They'll answer. They'll help you out. So you'll get that info. I like to just put a face to a name. That way there's tech support that you can go to. You don't have to go through your admin. You can call directly if you need it. A lot of times you don't. What we pride ourselves with Boardworks is that it's very, very easy to use. Whether you're sitting in this room and you're super tech savvy, which you guys are a 1-to-1 district, you have Mac, so a lot of you guys are probably tech savvy. But there are also some that aren't, right? And even if you're not tech savvy, you'll be able to use Boardworks. It's not complicated, which is what I love about it. So as we dive into Boardworks, I always love this stat. This is a year old now. I did this last summer. And I was at a teacher conference in Waco, kind of in between Dallas and Austin. And there are a bunch of different teachers there. Some from suburban school districts, some from rural, some from school districts like Merritt that kind of sit on the outskirts of a city, kind of in its own little enclave. had some urban teachers, charter school teachers, private school teachers. I mean, it was a ton. There's probably like 100, 120 over the couple days in this session from all different types of schools. And we asked them, you know, where do teachers go to find instructional resources? If I'm sitting in my class and little Johnny or little Susie's not getting a concept or a standard, and I've planned instruction a certain way, and I have to go back and I have to reteach, do some RTI or MTSS, or whatever I'm doing to meet the needs of that kiddo on that standard, you know, what am I doing? And the truth of the matter is most teachers that we talked to, especially from last year when we were doing this, is they go to Google and they go find what they need to. And God love teachers, love you guys to death, because y'all are doing whatever you can to meet the needs of those kids, even if it's at 7 o'clock at night and you have your own family to tend to. Little Johnny misses something, you know, you're figuring out another way to teach it on your own time. Am I right on that? And so these were some of the most common answers that we got, right? If I need instructional resources outside of what the district gives me, where am I going? Google, teachers pay teachers, 17% said they just create their own. Pinterest, which was news to me. I always thought Pinterest was like for like houses. So I guess we go there for school too. Other teachers, teacher blogs. District, that's kind of depressing. We had some big schools in there. You'll see in rural school districts, a lot of times the district doesn't provide as much, but in bigger school districts they do, which is, I felt like this is kind of low. And then other was like Twitter, Facebook groups, stuff like that. Granted, you may go to a different spot, but just generally speaking, about in your own career or teachers you've worked with, is this pretty much true? Yeah, seen some head shake, yes. There may be one or two that you go places that aren't on here, but generally speaking, it's pretty much true. It's funny, we partnered with a big school district in the Dallas area, and I got a text from one of their assistant supes the other day, and the commissioner of education, be very similar to Joy Hoffmeister in Oklahoma, right? Well, I guess she's running for governor now. She's still the state supe. So our version of that in Texas basically said that they have the data that majority of teachers in Texas are going to Google for their curriculum, which is sad, right? Because that means, not so much sad that whether it's good or not, that's irrelevant. To me, it's sad because teachers are spending an inordinate amount of time trying to find good stuff when really we should be provided to them, right? Because you guys are teaching 6 periods a day. If you're elementary, you may be self-contained. You're teaching 4 different subjects or 3 different subjects. I mean, you just got a lot going on top of RTI, on top of 504 meetings, which seem to be increasing every year, and IEP meetings. Y'all call them IEP meetings in Oklahoma, right? So you have all this stuff going on. And then when you get to the secondary level, you have clubs and athletics, and you have all this other stuff too. So it's just a lot going on today. So that's where Boardworks really tries to come in and help. And I love this quote, because I think it gets to the heart of what Boardworks is really trying to do conceptually. I know you all can read. I'm not trying to insult your intelligence, and it's being cut off, half of it's being cut off anyway, so I'm going to read it for emphasis. This is from Kimberly Ruse, back in April of last year. She was reflecting on the year with when COVID was a thing. I don't know if it's a thing anymore. I guess rates are starting to go back up, but whatever, we don't care. Not in this part of the country. But she was reflecting on the year, the first school year with COVID, and just teaching in general. Not with or without COVID, just teaching in general. If there's one thing I've learned in 30 years I've spent in public education classrooms, it's this: kids will do anything for a teacher they are connected to. Do y'all agree with that? And if you don't, most people are afraid to say they disagree with it, so whatever, you can stay silent. But I would say most teachers, most educators probably agree with that on some level. And I would agree with that too, right? I experienced that when I was a coach. If a kid thought I believed in them, they'd run through a brick wall for me, right? As a principal, if a teacher thought I supported them, and I'm sure y'all feel the same way as teachers in this room, you would go the extra mile for your leadership and do what they say because you feel like they respect you, they value you, so you're going to contribute to the school community. But I think it's just human nature. When you feel like someone loves you and respects you, wants the best for you, your natural reaction is to be obedient, do what they want, right? I remember, when my dad, when I was 16, bought me a car, but my curfew was 10, I'm gonna be home at 9:59. I'm so grateful that he bought me a car, right? So it's that same kind of concept. So this really gets to the heart of what Boardworks is trying to do, because our resources aren't meant to be something where a kid sits in front of a computer and just goes through it all on their own. Our resources are meant to be a supplement, not replace any of the great things that you're doing, to be a curriculum, because we're not a curriculum, but to be a support that you can pull from to teach with in differing circumstances, whether that's in classroom, whether that's one-on-one, whether that's virtual, whether that's tutorials, whether that's after school, whether that's small group, station, whatever. So that you don't always have to go to a Teachers Pay Teachers or a Google or whatever when you have, a need for some supplemental resources to supplement what you already typically use on a daily basis. Does that make sense? So what we do at Boardworks is we provide highly interactive, supplemental K-12 resources that are really designed to support the teacher in any context. Our goal is really just to empower or support, make the teacher's life easier, save teachers time, so they can engage their students in any environment, however they need. Classroom, small, and all the environments that we find ourselves teaching. The resources of Boardworks are really designed to be, to support that direct teach portion, right? Whether you're doing it for 10 minutes in a classroom or you're intense with a kiddo who can't understand a concept, to be an interactive resource that you can use, that can be manipulated, that the kid can use. So to be engaging, interactive for the kid, but also to support you, save you some time as you teach. So what is Boardworks and what do we have? So we have over 25, I think we're all actually up to 30,000 slides. That may be a little less because we added some new presentation. But we have over 30,000 slides of interactive content across the 4 core subjects. So math, science, ELA, and history. K through 12. That teachers can use to teach with. So that third bullet point right here. All aligned to Oklahoma academic standards in the 4 core subjects that you as a teacher can just easily go and pull whatever you need. That first bullet point, it works with any device that's connected to the internet. So if I have do you have any interactive TVs or anything in your classroom? So it works great with that. You can manipulate it. Works great on one-to-one devices. You can share it to kids one-to-one devices. They can follow along with you. Doesn't matter if it's a Chromebook, Mac, PC, whatever, smartphone, right? Because we know sometimes they'll leave their one device at home, but they never leave their smartphone at home, right? It works well with that. It's intuitive and easy to use. So here in a second, when I jump onto the platform, it's so easy. If you've used Google Slides before, or even old school PowerPoint, you can use Boardworks. That's how simple it is. And what's really great is the presentations themselves are chock full of great info that align to your standards that you can use to teach with, but you can also customize them. So if I'm teaching something in U.S. history, but I want to hide a slide, maybe I have some Google slides that I made last year that I would like to use, but I want to use a few slides from Boardworks that are interactive, you can actually combine them. And so you can do some editing if you want. And it's all saved. You don't have to. The resources themselves are great as is, designed to make your life easier. But you have the option to customize presentations. And the last thing that I feel like teachers give me feedback a lot that they love is that there's no student logins. Right? This is not an assessment platform. Right? This is not something that you're getting data back on students with. This is something for you to use to teach with. So students can still get access to the resources. Do y'all use Google Classroom or? Yes, Google Classroom, okay. So you can, students can still get access to it. You can just share it through Google Classroom and they can get access to it and follow along with you, which I'll show you how to do. So it makes it very frictionless. They're not having to remember anything. They just log into the Google Classroom and you can share it directly. So big picture, it's a supplemental resource that has the 4 core content areas, interactive presentations that you can use to teach with, whole class, small group, individual, in a direct teach environment as needed, right? Not everything is you don't want, we all know it's not good pedagogy, right, to stand up and lecture for 45 minutes like I'm doing to y'all right now, right? But at the same time, there's always a need for direct teach, and that's what Boardworks can really come in and support with, you know, in that portion of your lesson. Make sense? Okay, cool. So most of the teacher use that we see with Boardworks is usually around some of these different areas. We see it used a lot for interventions as part of like an RTI or NTSS where you're responding to a kid that might have missed something. So it's a good supplement for that. We see it used a lot if you're a new teacher in here, or you're a long-term sub, or maybe we couldn't hire somebody, so you're having to teach multiple content areas, and maybe one content area is newer to you, or one subject's newer to you, so we see it used a lot to support teachers in that. We see it a lot for SPED or EL support. It's really great for differentiation, especially if I have a kiddo in my class who may be in my Algebra 1 class, but the kiddo's a little bit behind, they're really on a middle school math level, so there's some gaps, there's some interventions that need to happen, right? It makes it easier on the teacher or co-teacher or an instructional aide. A lot of teachers love it too if they have instructional aides supporting SPED students in their classrooms, because they have access to it as well, so it's easy to get whatever levels needed to match that kid where they are. It's great for EL support. You have some EL learners. I know we're starting to see more in Oklahoma. Very visual, so it's great with those strategies. We see it used like in classroom instructional support, normal everyday classroom instruction, and then any virtual or hybrid needs. If little Johnny's out for 2 weeks because they got COVID, it's good for that too, because you can easily share it towards when they're at home. So that's how most common that we see it used across Oklahoma. And ultimately, the feedback that we've gotten, they love it. The 3 things that teachers like about it is easy to use, it's customizable and flexible. You can use it however you need, and it's interactive for your students. It's not just a bunch of words on a screen they can manipulate. So here's what I want to do. Oh, before we even go there, everything that I'm showing you today can be found on this teacher support website. So I'm going to show you, for like the next 15, 20 minutes, I'm going to show you how to navigate the platform. Then we're going to be done. And you're going to be good to go, and that's how simple it is. But everything I'm showing you today, I'm talking about, can be accessed on our teacher support website, which again, I'm going to send this to your admin team, and they can forward it on to you. But it's just boardworkseducation.com/teacher-support. If I were to go to this teacher support website, click on it real quick. What's happening? Proceed. It's safe, I promise. This teacher support website has FAQs and has videos over how to do some of the different features of the platform. And we update it, we add new videos as new features come out, but it's all there for you. So if something I say today, you're like, man, I know that guy who was really good looking said, thank y'all, said this when he was doing the training, it's gonna be right here. Cool? All right, let's talk about it. Let me log out for a second. So, if you haven't set up your account yet, not a big deal. You can get your account. If you have to have it reset, your admin can do it, whatever. You can sign in, since I use Google, you can actually sign in with your Google single sign-on, right? Makes it easy if you want. Or you can set it up to where it's just your email and you have your own login, however you want to set up. You'll get an email if you haven't already, or if you haven't checked it, check your email to set up your account. And again, you don't need to be on Boardworks right now. You can just sit back, chill, and listen. But either way, you can do single sign-on through Google. You can set it up. It goes through all that in the email when your admin sends it to you. And for some reason you don't see it, just give it to your admin. They can make sure you get it and they'll get you signed up. It's really simple. But once you're logged in and have it and you got the email, you set it up. When you log in, this is what you'll see. And you'll all have access to K-12 resources. And we do that on purpose, right? So you'll see all of the resources that you have access to, which is everything in here. K through 5, ELA, Math and Science, 6 through 8, ELA, Math, Science, and History, and then you got all of your individual high school subjects like Algebra 1, Algebra 2, Geometry, right, Chemistry, Bio, ELA, World History, U.S. History. You got some Shakespeare, Modern Lit to support ELA, and of course you got Grammar to support ELA, really at the middle and high school levels. So you have some supportive content areas as well. So you have all of that at your fingertips to use however you need. Doesn't matter what grade level you are, it's all gonna be in there. You as the teacher, just scroll to whatever content area you want. So say I was teaching Algebra 1, that's what I needed. I can click on Algebra 1, and no matter what content area I choose, it's going to look the same way. So anytime you click on a content area, you're gonna have all of your, all of your presentations in alphabetical order based off topic on the right-hand side. So like in Algebra 1, I don't know, right now there's around 50-ish presentations. It's all there. You can search for a topic if you know what topic, or you can come over here to the Oklahoma Academic Standards and you can click on a standard, whatever. It's going to write the standard out, this A1.F 3.1 standard, and the presentations that match that standard get pulled up. Aren't they redoing the English standards in Oklahoma right now? Am I wrong on that? Am I making that up? I feel like they're redoing one of them.
They've already redone them, they won't test on them until next year.
Yeah, so I know Boardworks is going through an update. I think I got the email about English, so that's why they're updating English to match the new English standards. So as the standards change, we'll update presentations to match the standards. So if I were to go to a different one, maybe this elementary math, you'll see on the left-hand side, you have it based off grade levels, K through 5, and you have all of your presentations on the right-hand side. And it's going to look the same in middle school as well. I could come over here in middle school, say we're doing middle school science. You'll have your 6th through 8th grade standards on the left-hand side, and then on the right-hand side, you have all of your presentations. And again, you can scroll to whatever one you want. Does that make sense on how I navigate content area? Pretty simple, right? And again, you would go to this to use for any type of direct teach that you may need as a supplement, right? So say this is what I want. Say I was a middle school science teacher. We'll just stay here for efficiency's sake. Say I was doing something on, what's this, heat transfer right here in the middle. So if I wanted this, I could press the play button, and that's going to pull the presentation right out. So like on my projector, if I have interactive TV, it's going to pull it right up. I'm ready to rock and roll. Now before I show it to you, what I'm going to do is I'll show you what to expect in the presentations, the 4 different elements that you'll see. But before I do that, there's other buttons down here on the presentation. Like I press the play button, that pulls it up on my screen, right? You can print off the slides, whatever slides you want to print off. There's quick checks for understanding in here. You can do them as exit tickets, but you can print off the slides for however many slides you wanted to print. You can share these to students' devices, which I'll show you here in a second, but I can share the slides to students through Google Classroom or whatever. This slide actually comes with a lab write-up worksheet. About half of our science, secondary science, will come with that if there's like a virtual lab in there. So you can download the worksheet. So if you wanted to download it, you just press download. It's going to make it a Word document, which I don't have Word on this Mac, I don't think. Well, it did it in Note, but I can edit this. It's like 9 pages. You can edit it. We make it Word, so you can edit it. You can upload it as a Google Doc. Oh, I didn't mean to exit out. Dang it. There we go. About half of our science come with that lab write-up. All of our ELAs come with a worksheet as well. The reason that ELAs, whether it's K all the way through 12 do is because there's graphic organizers, right? It's not just a worksheet, but it's graphic organizers, and we know sometimes in ELA it makes sense to, especially in writing, to write things out by hand using different graphic organizers. So they accompany those as well, and you'll see it in the science as well. So that's what that icon means. And then the last icon, this old school floppy disk. Now, if you were born, I don't know, after 1990, you may not know what that is, which I'm sure there's people in this room that were born after 1990. Not me. I was born in the 80s. Glorious decade, by the way. Best music. You can actually save and edit these presentations. You can customize them. So that's how you can customize them. Now I'm going to show you how to do that. But that's what all those buttons mean. So what I'm going to do now is we're going to go through a presentation real quick so you can see what to expect. And it's going to be the same elements across K-12 and all the content areas. Then I'm going to show you how to actually execute these different features. Then we'll be done. So, any questions so far? Awesome. So like this heat transfer presentation, you can see it's 22 slides, right, down at the bottom. I can actually toggle these slides out, and I get a thumbnail of the slide on the left-hand side. So if I'm teaching, I can skip to whatever slide I want. I don't have to skip though. Like this whole presentation builds, like there's a beginning, middle, end, there's an order and a pedagogy to it. So I'm, for heat transfer, talking about the transfer of heat. I think it's 7th grade science maybe, I could be wrong. But, so this whole presentation makes sense. You can go through it as a teacher, whatever you want, or you can skip to whatever slide you want, right? What's great about Boardworks, which doesn't, as a teacher, doesn't concern you as much, but the way we do our licenses is that it's non-subscription. So once you guys have it, like in Merit, you have it, it's never going away. So, you may want to go through the whole presentation like of heat transfer this year, but 3 years from now, we may change it a little bit depending on the standards, but say it's similar, you don't want to use 3 or 4 slides that you like because you want to use something else. You can do that, right? That's the beauty of Boardworks. It's a flexible resource to use how you want. Now the different elements that you'll have in there is, number one, you'll have some static slides like this that look like a typical Google slide that you might have made on your own with pictures, right? There's text. We'll have static slides like this that give context to what we're learning. So this one happens to be setting up a virtual experiment. So it's giving you the materials, asking how you would do it. If I go to the next slide, the second type of slide is an interactive slide. So now we can actually conduct the experiment. So you'll have slides on Boardworks that are pictures and text that are giving context to what we're learning. And then you'll have slides like this that are interactive slides that the teacher or the kiddo can manipulate, right? So I can actually, if I have a touch screen, which I guess my Mac is not touch screen. If you have a touch screen, you can actually take your finger and use your finger to move it, or you can use your mouse. So I can take these different metals and bring them over to the Bunsen burner. And so now virtually I can conduct this experiment to see how long it takes to melt the wax off, right? Like iron versus steel versus glass, which is a non-metal, so it's probably going to take a lot longer, right, because conduction's not as good. And again, whether you teach science or not, that's not the point, but the point is, whether it's ELA, math, US history, or science, all of these presentations are going to have slides like this that are interactive. If it's history, you may have some interactive war map. If it's ELA, you may have some interactive, where you're breaking down, where you're analyzing some reading or paragraph or whatever. If it's lower level, you may have something on phonics. If it's math, you may have some graphs that you're manipulating, whatever the case may be. But the slides themselves will have interactive elements that pertain to that concept and that content. So that's the second type of slide that you can expect to see. The third type of slide is animations, like this one, where you simply just press play, and there's usually a 30-second, minute animation. Like obviously this is an animation that's showing what happens behind the metal when you heat it up. Right, very visual. That's why we say a lot of times it's great for some of your EL learners, because it's less on language and more on the visuals. So you'll have animations. Another animation. This is a non-metal, so you can compare and contrast that, right? And then as I go on, you're always going to have about 2 to 3 quick checks for understanding. So kids may be on their one-to-one device out here, and we're doing it together. They may be working together as a class, and I'm walking around the room. Or I may be doing direct teach, and now we come to this quick check for understanding where they have to order the most conductive to the least conductive, because I just gone over it with our experiment. And so I have little Johnny or Susie come to the board, or we're going through it as a class. These are quick checks, and usually there's about 2 to 3. They're not always ordering, right? Like this one happens to be ordering. I can manipulate it, order it around however I want, check my answer. I got them all right, surprise, surprise. I can reset it. You can print them out. Sometimes they're multiple choice, sometimes they're fill in the blank, sometimes they're matching, right? Sometimes they're drag and drop, true, false. But every presentation is typically going to have 2 to 3 of these scattered throughout in there at the appropriate points based off the content that came before it. And so those are the 4 elements that you can expect to find in a Boardworks presentation. Static text slides that give you context, interactive slides, animations, and then these quick checks for understanding. And those are all the elements that make up all these presentations. Any questions on that? Beautiful. Now, if I were to go back to the second slide, if for some reason I forget something, the second slide of every presentation acts as a key to tell you what the slides can do. So like you can see, like those red stars indicates that a slide is interactive. So if I were to go back to that, I think the experiment at the beginning, you can see that there's stars up here on the right, the right-hand side. So that indicates there's interactivity. So when I come to a slide that has that key, that means that tells you can manipulate the slide. So it kind of acts as a key. Like that book, if I were to go back here, that book indicates there's teacher notes on the slide. So if I want to see what the teacher notes say to support me, I can click on the bottom left-hand corner, and there's teacher notes. So maybe I'm a new science teacher, or this is a newer topic for me that I'm not as well versed in, whatever, right? There's no way to be well versed in everything that we always teach. Sometimes we need a little refresher. So we have teacher notes that go over some of the concepts as a support as well. So this is really great, especially if you have a sub or someone's filling in your class, but you need them to hit on something. This is good for them as well because they have the teacher notes. A lot of times we'll see if a kid has an IEP, we know, or 504 plan, it seems like every 504 plan or IEP has copies of teacher notes in there, right? So you can actually take some of those teacher notes and give it to the students. But that's what you'll find in the presentations. Now again, remember, we could be here all day, which is not gonna happen, going over, going into each presentation, each content area. I want you guys to be able to explore on your own. Now before I leave, the last 5-10 minutes, I'm gonna show you these different features, right? So, you know how to navigate, you know how to play it, you know what to expect in it, you know how it kind of looks and how it functions. Now, let's go to a different content area. Say I wanted to go to elementary ELA, and I wanted to, I wanted to share this presentation on adjectives, right, to my students. You have these two different ways to share it. You have this single kid icon right here, this single kid icon, and you have this multiple kid icon. So they both share the same way, but those two different icons share just a little bit different. The single kid icon is what we call a student session. That is more asynchronous. That's where if I were to share it through that icon, that allows the student to go through the entire presentation on their own. So I would do that as a teacher is if I had them in station teaching and I'm walking around and kids are going through it on their own and I'm visiting, or a kid is absent and they're at home and they need some notes, I may give them access, share it that way, right? If I just need the kid on their device for however I set up the lesson that day to be able to click through it on their own and I'm following up or whatever, that's how I would use it. Now I would not, just full transparency, I would never use Boardworks as every time I share to the kid, they're just going through it on their own. Because it's really designed to have that teacher voice with it, right? Because a kid is not, sometimes they may not understand it unless like you're guiding them through with it. That's how it's designed. However, there are situations, right, where it could be beneficial for a kid to go through it on their own and you're checking in with them or they're absent or whatever. So that's why you have that option with the single kid icon. Now, if I wanted to share it to a student's device where I am leading the instruction, you know, maybe I'm lecturing and going over for 15 minutes as I introduce a topic or whatever. This multiple student icon allows the teacher to share it to a student's device. They can interact with it, but they're stuck on the slide that you have them on. So they can't move it forward or backwards. So I'm walking around the room, I'm teaching. They're stuck on that slide. I may pause and say, do this quick check for understanding. And I walk around the room, they're doing it, but they can't move it forward or backwards. So they're stuck on it. So the teacher controls the pace. Make sense, the difference between the two? How you share it, though, is super simple. Whatever icon you want to share, whether you control it or you let the kid control the pacing, is you just click on the icon. This is what it brings up. I can connect my Google Classroom and share this presentation directly to my Google Classroom. Whether I put it under a specific class or announcements or assignments, wherever I want to put it in my Google Classroom, I just click the icon, and when I click it here, this mat, because I wasn't expecting to use it, is not set up for it, so I can't show you all the way through. But when I click the icon, I can share it to whatever classroom I want, and it's gonna embed the presentation wherever you want to put it in your Google Classroom. The first time you do it, you just got to set up your Google Classroom and connect it. And after that, it sends it automatically, you press 2 buttons, and it's there. Does that make sense? Very simple. So we have a direct connection to Google Classroom. If you don't want to use Google Classroom, right, for whatever reason, you don't have to. You can actually press this copy button right here, and it's going to copy a link to that presentation that's good for 30 days. So if mom and dad want to know what they're doing in class, right, you're teaching U.S. history, you want to make sure there's no CRT in it, whatever. You can send that presentation to mom and dad, right? It's good for 30 days. Or you can post it somewhere else. If you want to post it on some other website, right? It's good for 30 days. So you can get a live link that's good for 30 days and give it to kids that way. Or the third way is you can have kids go to our website, give them this code, and they just put in this code on our website and it pulls up the presentation that way too. I think that's probably the most cumbersome. Probably easier to give them a direct link or post it to Google Classroom. But if you want to give a code out, you can give a code out and then go to our website and type the code in, and that'll open the presentation too. Point being, there's no student login, so you don't have to mess with it. It's very, very easy on how you get kids access. Any questions with that? And if I were to share the live lesson where the kids can't control the pacing, where they have to follow along with me, it shares the same way. Google Classroom, copy, the code. Once I've shared it out, I can just click join lesson from here, and then they'll be on the same, we'll all be on the same one together. Any question with that? Pretty simple, right? And if it's not, just email me later, not a problem. So, you know how to play the presentation, you know how to navigate, you know what to expect, you know how to print it off, you know how to share it. You know that ELA is going to come with those graphic organizers that follow along with the presentation if you want to use it. You don't have to, it's there as a support. The last thing I want to show you is how to edit a presentation. So say I was doing something on writing, elementary writing, and I wanted to use this presentation, but maybe there's some they're always coming out with some new research that supports good writing, right? So maybe there's something newer that is not mentioned in this presentation, but there's some good stuff in here, but I want to add this 1 or 2 slide extra, or I want to change a few things. So if I click on the old school floppy disk, it's going to say save to my library. So everybody in this room has their own library with Boardworks, right? So if I were to go back out, close. If I were to go back out to over here, you'll see on the left-hand side it says my library right here where my mouse is. So any presentation that I customize will be in my library. So you can see I have a bunch that I've used as examples. Now, if I was a teacher, this would drive me nuts. I wouldn't have them just like all out in the open like this. Like I would put them in folders, very similar to Google Drive, right? So you can organize it by class period, by student. But any presentation that you customize will be in your library, sitting there for you to use. And you'll notice like all these have been customized. So like this Algebra 1, I can play it, I can share it, right? So if I wanted to customize a presentation, let's go back to the content. Say I wanted to customize a biology presentation. All I do, maybe we're doing something on the carbon cycle. I can give it a name, Vaughn, Bio, 6th period, carbon, whatever, I don't know. But you save it, it's gonna go to my library, and it's automatically, does that mean I'm done? Time's up? I promise you I'm almost done. That means automatically it's gonna open up that presentation in my library, give me the thumbnails of it, and now I can customize it. So now, I could change the order of slides. If I want to change the order of slides, just drag it and drop it. I love this too, you can actually hide slides. So if I don't want to show something, I can press this hide, and I can chunk it. So maybe I only want to show 8 slides, not all of it. I can hide it. Or what I think it's really great for with kiddos, especially kids who may be a little bit behind that are in your class. Maybe you're giving them a middle school presentation when you're in high school, but you don't want it to say middle school. You can hide that first slide so that they don't know the difference, right? So benefit there. You can also add teacher notes. So when I share this to kiddos, if I want to add a note, remember what we said in class, yada, yada, yada. So when a kid gets it, they'll have that note on their presentation that they can, as they go through it, they can see it. Or even better, it takes a little work for the teacher, but if I have a kid that really needs to hear it verbally, right here in the platform, you can record your voice, allow them access microphone, and I can talk, and it's gonna record my voice, so if I'm making this customized presentation for 5 kids and I wanna talk over this slide, it records my voice, I save it, I can insert that audio, and so now in the notes section, we have whatever notes I typed in, and then the kid can play. And when they play it, they hear my voiceover. Does that make sense? When I share it, yeah. So it's custom notes for your kiddos. Also, we can change the order, I can hide slides, we can add custom notes, we can add audio, and then you can also add slides, of course. So if I go down here to the bottom, I press add a slide, we can upload from Google, I can upload from PowerPoint. So if I have stuff that I made or I got from other teachers, whatever, and I want to combine it with Boardworks, I can do that. I can take from other Boardworks presentations. Maybe I'm doing some bio, but I want to take from some middle school science concepts as a reminder. I can combine those. Or, obviously, you can add your own blank slide where you can put in a Kahoot link, or you can put in a YouTube clip, or you have some other assessment. Maybe you're using Nearpod and you want to get some feedback. You can throw that into Boardworks, or vice versa, where you can customize and put it on your own stuff. Pear Deck, and a Pear Deck's great for feedback in the moment, right? You can add those platforms together. Boardworks is great with content. You can add some of these feedback concepts and put it in there. All there customized. And it's all there in your library, safe and sound. The original content's not messed with. It's all there for everybody. You have yours in the library. And if I want to share it with another teacher, so say there's 2 middle school science teachers, or it's elementary and we're all teaching everything, you can actually take a presentation that you've created, save it to a school library, and anything you save to the school library, all teachers in the school have access to. So you can share customized presentations with each other. And then your admin, principals, curriculum, whatever, they can actually take presentations and share them in a district library, so anything customized, and share it across the district. So if someone, at one of the middle schools or an elementary school makes something great, but other campuses for whatever reason need it or want it, you can put it in the district library, and every teacher in the district will have access to it. So you can really share these customized presentations with each other. Any questions with any of that? Seem pretty simple? So at the most basic level, that's what Boardworks is, right? Content across K-12 that's continually being updated, meant to be engaging, interactive, meant to work with the teacher, right? You can use it in isolation for the kid to go through on their own in spots, obviously with y'all's expertise and pedagogy, but just it's really meant to be there for you to teach with, that you can customize, works with any one-to-one device, and really just to make your life easier, so you're not always having to go to Google or Teachers Pay Teachers, something that's standards aligned, that saves you time. That's it. Any questions? Awesome. All done. See, I finished on time and we started late, so we're good.
If you guys have questions, now's your time, because he's getting ready to leave.
And what I'll do
Can
too.
you share just one slide at a time?
Yeah, you can. What you would
So
need
like the quick check